Hey there, Postal here. So today we're looking at, in my opinion, an overpowered Tier 6 premium light fighter. This is the Spitfire V DB 605. Let's take a look. Alright, so we've got the German version of Spitfire V. This was a captured Spitfire, and they took a DB605 German engine and placed it in it. In-game, what does that mean? Well, in-game it means you've got a Spitfire V with all the trimmings, and you've got significantly better altitude performance. So I don't have a Spitfire V anymore. I had a Spitfire V. I got rid of it because I've got this, and there's no reason to have a normal Spitfire V. Why am I looking at Tier 5? I need to be looking at Tier 6. Thank you, Postal. So this is your Tier 6. Let's compare it to the VBIM, and you can see it's all the same metrics right across the board, other than altitude performance. And it's a pretty big jump in altitude performance, almost 50% difference in your overall performance. So the altitude performance, optimum altitude 6,500 feet. With the normal Spitfire V, you're at 4,500 feet. You've got an extra 2,000 service ceiling, 2,000 feet on the service ceiling. The rate of climb, it shows is slightly less, but in game it's really not at all, and I believe the rate of climb is slightly less on this because you're going so much higher. At a certain time you're just going to start losing that rate of climb. In game you're not going to notice anything about the difference. So what does this mean? Well, you have yourself your Tier 6 Spitfire V, but with the only thing it was really lacking, and that is its altitude performance. You can get up where the BF-109s are pretty easily. Now, do keep in mind, just because you've got this DB605 engine, the acceleration is not, and the airspeed itself is not as good as a BF-109, BF-109F at Tier 6. So definitely keep that in mind. You're going to notice that difference between the standard German light fighters and this particular one, but the altitude performance is right there. And you've got maneuverability that a BF-109 wishes it had. So, considering we've got a Spitfire Mark V as the airframe, you've got your four 7.69, your basically your machine guns, your Browning Mark IIs, and then you've got your two 20mm Hispanos that, if you've played any British fighter, multi-role or light, or even the early heavy fighters, you're used to Hispanos. You know how good those 20mm can be. So this plane really balances out everything that I would want in a light fighter. You've got your high altitude, you've got your really good turniness, and the ability to kind of tear planes up. So you do need to keep in mind that you can't outturn everything. Zeros are going to be able to outturn you, Yaks are going to be able to outturn you, but you can basically outturn everything else. And especially at altitude, so anything that's going to be up high, like a P-51 or a BF-109, you're going to be able to outturn. A key might be the only thing that is really comparable to your altitude performance and would be comparable. Let's take a look. So yeah, the maneuverability is pretty close with these two. You're slightly more maneuverable than a key 61, the Tier 6. You actually have a pretty decent amount higher altitude performance. So do keep in mind, if you run into a key 61, use your altitude performance. You should be able to use that to your advantage. And you're going to see that in this particular battle I run into a couple pretty maneuverable airplanes, and I use my altitude advantage in that kind of situation. If you run into some altitude fighters, use your maneuverability. And so just be aware of what you're fighting against, and you can absolutely own every other light fighter that's out there. Let's go ahead and, now that we're done talking about the parameters of the plane and what it is, what it was historically, let's take a look at a game. Okay, so we're in a Tier 6 battle. Got a lot of specialized turn, burns. LA Specialized can probably outturn me. Zero, not specialized, can definitely outturn me. We'll see how it goes. What they can't do though is they can't out altitude me.
Pilots, get ready for action. Let's go.
So let's go ahead and get up to a decent altitude. Probably about 5,500 feet or so. And we're going to continue on. This should be a pretty good map for this skill set of this particular plane. Every sector I have the ability to flip, so that's always a good thing. Got some boomerangs down there. I was hoping to get, there we go. Get the top guy first. Get a light fighter next. Using the British plane versus the British plane. It's coming back to haunt you. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, heavy fighter. You're super swell. Awesome. Oh, wait a minute. Speaking of heavy, let's keep our boost going if we can. He's pulling away, unfortunately. If he turns, though. This one thing the Spitfires all lack is decent airspeed, right? So yeah, I can hang with them as far as altitude is concerned. But even with this upgraded engine, it's still difficult to actually keep a steady pace. Let's head on over towards the center. And I guess we're gonna go up because we've got a multi-roll coming in. Nope. Still is. Yes, he's going the other way. So I still want to come towards the center. Let's continue to do that. Get rid of some of these boomerangs. Definitely have the air brakes on right there. Got some bombers. We could be getting those bombers, but let's get rid of this ground pounder since we're already down here. Let the 20s cool off so that way we can do that. Alright, and now let's start boosting up. We've got a PE2. What is that other bomber? The JU-88, which will actually be a reasonably high altitude. I guess we're kind of done over here, so let's head over to... let's keep on getting higher up because that LA is going to want to come up here. Oh, never mind, I lied. Dang it, I was hoping to get him. Boosting around. I guess I can get him. Alright, I don't want to mess with that zero. Kind of surprised that I even got the got behind that LA and was able to do anything versus him. Let's get my boost engaged here, cooling on. I'm gonna go ahead and go after this tornado, although it looks like so tornado's gonna be the bigger threat in my opinion, just because he can turn. Mosquito's not very well known for its turning ability. It's gonna let the guns cool down a little bit. Alright, excellent. Let's use our yield boost. Let's get up to the mosquito level because we can pretty easily, considering you can't do this in a normal Spitfire 5. Excellent. Alright, so now we know we've got the altitude advantage. We're up to 6,000 and the LA or the zero coming up here is basically suicide. And speaking of suicide, we need to get rid of him if at all possible. Get in on them pretty quickly here. Excellent. That was the most important thing to snag there. What do we got? Now we got the 0 down there. So we definitely need that guy knocked out a little bit. Got to save up our boost. Our boost just engaged, so we'll come in here. If we need to outboost him, we'll outboost him. Or if he's just going to sit there in a straight line and let us punch him in the face, we'll sit there in a straight line and punch him in the face. I actually want to get over to our airfield and hold on to that. Get up to a decent altitude, just about 3,500 feet. Nothing too crazy, but it just allows us to go higher if we need to. All these are multi-rolls in front of us, so none of them are going to be like crazy altitude fighters anyway. But man, we don't want to lose this. Who's first up? Clarence, Clarence. Roger, Roger. Excellent. Okay, let's get this FW. I can see that P40 coming in as well. Let's actually get the P40 because he's up higher.
Hang in there. You'll soon be cut off from support. I say again, support will not be
Nice. Now we can get this FW. And now we're not in like super crazy rush mode. We wouldn't have lost by losing this, but it would have made it more difficult. Like it wouldn't have been a guarantee. And I'm glad this FW is not paying enough attention to me because he could have easily shot me. Coolio. Let's get up to altitude again. Having a pretty solid game here. Nothing spectacular, just going where I'm needed, right? And that's what this plane is really good at doing. You determine what you're fighting against, get up to the altitude you need to be to, and take advantage of it. If you're against a bunch of turny low altitude fighters, you do what you would do in a high altitude fighter and stay up above them and dive down on them. The perk that you have with this particular plane is you can actually stick with them a little bit when you dive down because you've got such great maneuverability. Alright, let's see what we can do against this tornado. Unfortunately, he's got like 420s, so if he really wants to, he could punch us in the face. So rather than letting him punch us in the face, let's wiggle a little bit, confuse him. Great. Here we go. So we got a ground pounder, we got a Baron von whoever, who's fighting against an FW. It's kind of a shame. Alright, so that FW can keep him. There we go. There we go. Excellent. Let's head over to the center. And we'll hit our boost. I think the game's pretty well over at this point, right? But you can see the full potential of this particular plane. You can be up there with the BF-109. You can be down here with the LAs. And you're going to feel comfortable in either slot. See if we can get one more frag before game over. Nope.
I'm proud of you, pilots. Head back home.
So pretty solid game. Nothing too spectacular, but you can see the potential of this particular plane if you're not stomping the other team to get a heck of a lot of points. Alright, so we were able to get 15 frags. Pretty darn good game, right? Grade 3, so not over the top, but a solid game. And to be honest, I've recorded 4 or 5 games just trying to get a spectacular game out of this particular plane. And I'm having a lot of these good solid games. I've had spectacular games in it, but because of what you can do with this plane, unless you're going against some really good players, typically the games kind of turn into this kind of situation where you've kind of doubled them up on points. You see they were at 417, we were at 800. It was kind of close for a while, and then it just, once you start taking sectors, you hold on to them very easily because you can go exactly where you need to be. You need to be up top and kill a bomber or some heavy fighters, done. You need to be down low and kill some Swivel fighters, let's do that. Multi-rolls in the middle, sure, sounds good, why not? I've gotten a McCampbell in the last 5 games, Akamatsu's, and so you just kind of get them in this particular plane. And it's not that the other team was a bad team in this instance, by no means, but this plane helps start an avalanche, if that makes sense. And so on the converse side, if the game starts off really funky and you're behind, this plane, more than any other tier 6 light fighter, in my opinion, can help sway and turn around the battle. So yeah, I really do enjoy this particular plane. Was lucky enough to win it in some sort of event. I don't remember what, but I'm pretty sure I would have gotten it anyway. Especially if it's on sale for like 50% gold or 30% off gold. I highly recommend getting this plane. You're going to enjoy it, especially if you like Spitfires, especially if you like BF-109s, and there's, you know, half the people out there. So hop on this plane next time you get a chance, for sure. It's an absolute fun plane. And a good plane on top of that. To be honest, like I said, it's basically overpowered. So thank you so much for joining me, and I definitely hope you guys have a great night. Bye.